Hi, this is Brandon Moon again. I want to welcome you back to Fly Tying Night. Tonight we're going to be tying up another Futsu Kebari. This one we're going to call the Golden Kogeki Koneki. Really hard to pronounce these Japanese words, but that means attack or offensive or strike in Japanese. I believe that's a very fitting name for this, as this is going to trigger some very aggressive strikes, especially when there's some light-bodied colored flies on the water. So we're going to get started tonight and tie this up. Tonight I'm tying this up in a size 14. You can tie this in a larger size. You can tie this up to, your size 12s, 10s, or you can tie it all the way down to an 18 or 20 if you really wanted to. But 14 is my go-to size for most of my flies, especially stiffer hackle fly patterns. So we'll go ahead and get started with that tonight. This will give us another little technique that we didn't have in our previous video, and give you a few different ways to tie in your bodies. Okay, so for our thread today we're going to use a Pell Olive. I'm using the 12-aught from Semperfli, the classic wax. I'm going to start this roughly about 2/3 of the way down that hook shank. Okay, I'm going to hold that tag end. I want a nice smooth underbody. I'm going to wrap that all the way back to the bend of the hook. You can see I'm using this tag end here, and that's going to help push my wraps up into each other. And that's going to give me a nice smooth thread base. The thread base is always the foundation to your fly, so it's super important that you take and create a good foundation to which the rest of your fly is tied from. Okay, so for the body on this one, we're going to take a wild golden barred turkey feather from Nature Spirit. Okay, this feather has two different sides. Okay, you've got this side over here. These are your thicker biots. They're not generally as long. This one's got some pretty good long ones. And then you've got this side here that has long thin ones, and that's the side that I generally like to use for my flies. And I'm just going to take my bodkin. Okay, see, I separate it. You can prep these in advance and soak them in some water in a little glass, a little cup, bowl. You can have a damp washcloth or a damp paper towel to moisten them. I don't do that. I'm just going to take it, put it on my tongue, and moisten that up. Okay, now I'm going to check this, and there's one side that has a ridge. Okay, and there's another side that's got a little bit of a semi-translucent side. I'm going to tie this with the ridge on top and the translucent side facing downward, and that's because of how I wrap. So it might take a little bit of practice figuring out how you're going to wrap this biot to make sure that you get it the way that you need it to. Okay, so I'm going to wrap that over. Again, I want nice smooth wraps. Okay, like previously, I'm going to create a taper to this fly with my thread base. Okay, so I'm going to go rearward almost to the very end, and then back forward, and then rearward again. I'm going to keep doing and repeating this, going back and forth, stopping short of where I stopped the previous time on the back side. This is going to create a little bit of a taper. You don't have to do this. I just like the aesthetics of how it looks. This is for me, not for the fish. Fish aren't going to care as much as I do, but I like it. Okay, so you can see I made sure that I have a nice flat body section there at the end, and that is so that my biot doesn't fall down when I'm wrapping it and slide off. Okay, now with these turkey biots, they're pretty fragile, so I'm going to take a little bit of super glue. Okay, and I'm just going to dab a little bit of glue onto that thread. Okay, this is going to increase the durability of this fly, but it's also going to bind it down in case the biot slips out of my hackle pliers. So I'm going to take my loon hackle pliers. Okay, I like them because they've got a nice wide base here for this. Okay, I'm going to take and pull that down, and when I'm wrapping this, I want the ridge of that biot to be on the back side. Okay, I'm going to wrap, I'm going to use my rotary feature here, but each wrap I'm wrapping that edge on that little dark spot from the translucent edge. Okay, and this is going to help me get a nice smooth taper to that biot. Okay, so I'm going to wrap it up to my thread point there. Now I'm just going to take and tie that off. That glue helps bind that down and makes it more durable. Now I'm just going to snip that off. Okay, now for the hackle on this, I'm going to use a Whiting Farms Grizzly Golden Straw. So this is a grizzly hackle that's dyed a golden straw, so it's a golden color. Okay, so I've got this feather here. It's all prepped. Okay. So you can see I've got my tie-in point, plus I've got a quarter turn to a half turn that's free on the side that's going to actually be hitting the hook shank. Okay, so I'm going to lay a little bit of a thread base down real quick so that my hackle stem doesn't want to rotate on me. Okay, I'm going to secure that in just like before. I want to stand that up. I'm going to do 2 wraps behind. Okay, that's going to help stand my feather up. Now I want to make sure I've got a good base here of thread. I'm going to kind of push this thread back a little bit, and that's going to help get my starting point on that hackle at the very, very base. The thread base is going to help so that my hackle doesn't want to slip and slide. It gives it something to grip on. Okay, so now I'm just going to start wrapping this hackle. We're just going to make this a nice bushy and thick hackle fly. Okay, and that'll be good right there. I don't necessarily count my wraps. I prefer to just make sure I'm giving myself enough room at the eye. So you can see I secured that hackle down, right? And then I pull it all backwards. Now I can snip that out. Okay. Now I'm going to clean up. I got a few pieces of hackle here. They're just in the way. Okay, so now I've got that. I'm just going to create my head. Now we'll whip finish. I'm going to do a 3-turn whip, so 1, 2, and 3. I use the Loom whip finish tool. It's got the snipper on the end, so we'll snip that off. Okay. I've got one more piece here. Snip that out. You can leave it as is. This is going to fish great. Or if you really want to, you can take some Solarez thin hard. Okay, just lay that on that thread. I take my bodkin I have for this purpose. I don't want to mix my bodkin just in case it gets a little bit of junk on it. I have one just for the UV resin or super glue. So now that I've got that, I'll just take and cure it with my light real quick. And there you have the Golden Kogeki Futsu Kebari. I'm sure that somebody can pronounce it better than I do, but you can see I've got a nice stiff hackle here. It's going to attract a lot of fish. That ribbing is going to be great. Please make sure and like our video. Okay, drop us a comment, even if it's just to say hi. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and hit the bell for future notifications so we can shoot you off notifications when we upload new videos. Thank you for watching tonight and have a wonderful evening.